Bangkok. At night, this city changes completely. What you see online is only part of the story, because once you step into it yourself, you realize there's a whole different layer to how nightlife here actually works. From the streets of Patpong, to the neon of Soi Cowboy, to the energy inside Nana Plaza, and the chaos of Khao San Road, each place plays by different rules. And if you don't understand those rules, you're going in blind. This is not a typical tourist walkthrough. This is a breakdown, how these areas really work, what to expect, and where most people get it wrong. We've split everything into clear chapters so you can jump into any area, or watch it all and understand the full picture before you go out. And if you want deeper insights, updated maps, and real-time changes, I keep that organized elsewhere. Links are below. So before you step into Bangkok Nightlife, watch this first. Before we get into the zones, you need to understand one thing. Bangkok Nightlife is not just Nana, Soi Cowboy, and Patpong. That's what most tourists know. But that's only part of the picture. Soi 4 alone has multiple layers. Most people think it starts and ends with Nana Plaza. It doesn't. The street outside has its own vibe, its own crowd, and a completely different energy depending on where you go and what time you go. Then you've got Soi 11. A lot of first-time tourists come to Bangkok and never even hear about it, and they miss a huge part of the city's nightlife. Rooftops, clubs, bars, street traffic, mixed crowds. It's one of the most versatile nightlife zones in Bangkok. And that's just the top of the iceberg, because every area here attracts different people, different expectations, and a different type of night. That's why this guide matters. I'm breaking it all down step by step, zone by zone, so you understand not just where to go, but how Bangkok nightlife actually fits together. And subscribe to the channel, because I'll also be dropping separate guides for all the main Bangkok zones. And if you've been out in Bangkok before, tell me which area surprised you most. Patpong. This is where Bangkok nightlife really began. Right in Siloam, surrounded by office towers and business districts, Patpong became one of the first places where the city built its after-dark reputation back in the 60s and 70s. What started as a rest and relaxation spot for foreign visitors slowly turned into a blueprint for what Bangkok nightlife would become. And even today, you can still feel that history here. Now you'll hear a lot of people say, Patpong is long gone, that it's not worth visiting anymore. I don't fully agree. Yeah, it's changed, a lot. But it's still alive, just in a different way. The area is split into two main streets, Soi 1 and Soi 2, and they've evolved very differently. Soi 1 is where you'll find the night market running right through the middle. Stalls, tourists, souvenirs, and behind that, older venues still operating in the background. Soi 2 feels a bit more focused, a bit more direct, but still very different from places like Nana or Soi Cowboy. And what makes Patpong interesting is that a lot of things here are not obvious at first. There are still surprises hidden in darker corners, places you wouldn't notice unless you actually walk in and explore a bit. And I'll be honest, this is also where I experienced my first classic "Welcome to Bangkok" moment. Classic ping pong scam. Let's just say, I learned something the hard way. And if you know, you know. So yeah, keep your awareness on point here. But at the same time, there are still reasons I keep coming back. One of them is Pink Panther. They run Muay Thai-style entertainment shows inside, something you don't really see in other nightlife zones. And every time I'm in Patpong, I still stop by at least once. So no, it's not the wild center it used to be. But it hasn't disappeared either. It just evolved. And if you want to understand Bangkok nightlife properly, Patpong is still worth seeing at least once. Now things get interesting. Or, let's be honest, this is probably what you came for. Welcome to Nana Plaza. Right in the middle of Sukhumvit Soi 4, this is one of the most talked about nightlife spots in Bangkok. And it didn't start like this. Back in the day, it was just a regular shopping complex. But as nightlife in this area grew, it slowly transformed into something completely different. Today, Nana Plaza is a 3-level complex built entirely around nightlife. And once you step inside, you immediately understand why it has the reputation it does. The layout is simple. A U-shaped building, 3 floors, all facing inward. So wherever you stand, you're always in the middle of the action. Lights, music, movement, it hits you straight away. The ground floor is more relaxed. Open bars, people sitting, watching, talking. A good place to take it slow and understand the atmosphere before going further. Then you move upstairs, and that's where the energy shifts. Each level feels more intense, more focused, and every place has its own style. Some are built around performance, some around interaction, some are just about the overall experience. And this is something important to understand about Nana Plaza. It's very structured. Once you start to see the pattern, it becomes easy to navigate. But if it's your first time, it can feel overwhelming very quickly. You'll also notice something else. This place is not trying to hide what it is. It's direct, loud, and very clear about the kind of experience it offers. And that's exactly why some people love it, and others walk out after 5 minutes. So here's the reality. Nana Plaza is not for everyone. But if you're curious about Bangkok nightlife, this is one of the key places to understand it. Yep, Nana is probably the most well-known nightlife spot in Bangkok, maybe even in Southeast Asia. And still, most people come here with no plan, no context, and end up making the same basic mistakes. That's exactly what I break down properly elsewhere. Inside the Lazy Nomad VIP Telegram, I share real experiences, updates, recommendations, and things that change on the ground. So if you're curious and want to understand it before you step in, you know where to find it. Soi 4 is more than just Nana Plaza. A lot more. Most people come here, go straight inside Nana, and completely ignore what's happening outside. And that's a mistake, because some of the most interesting parts of this area are not inside Nana Plaza. From early evening, this whole street starts building energy. Bars, restaurants, people moving in every direction. It's one of those places where you don't really need a plan. You just walk, and things happen. What makes Soi 4 interesting is that it has layers. At the front, it feels almost casual. Food spots, sports bars, places where you can sit down, grab a drink, and ease into the night. Places like Stumble Inn or the bars along the street. Very approachable, very easy to start your evening. But as you move deeper in, the atmosphere shifts. It becomes more intense, more unpredictable, and the crowd changes with it. Different people, different expectations, different rhythms depending on where you are and what time it is. And this is something important here. Soi 4 is not just a street, it's a transition zone. You've got people warming up for the night, people already deep into it, and people just observing, trying to figure it out, all in the same place. So if you rush through it, you miss half of what makes this area interesting. And honestly, what you see here in this video, that's just the top layer. If you want to really understand how Soi 4 works, I'm preparing a separate deep dive just for this area. So subscribe to the channel, that one's coming soon. Soi 4 works best when you slow down. Take a walk, sit for a drink, watch how the street changes over time. Because once you notice the layers, the whole place starts to make more sense. Now this one feels completely different. Welcome to Soi Cowboy. About 150 meters long, but packed with more energy than most streets in Bangkok. Tucked between Sukhumvit and Asok, this place has been around since the 70s. Named after an American guy who used to walk around here in a cowboy hat, and somehow the name stuck. What started as a small bar street turned into one of the most recognizable nightlife spots in the city. And once the sun goes down, you immediately see why. The whole street lights up, neon everywhere, music coming from every direction, people moving, stopping, looking around. It feels almost unreal the first time you walk through it. Compared to other areas, Soi Cowboy is simple. It's one straight street. Everything is right in front of you. No guessing, no searching. Just walk and you see everything. And that's why a lot of first-timers start here. It's easier to read, less confusing than places like Nana, more compact, more visual. You've got spots like Bakara, one of the most well-known names here. Multi-level, always busy, always pulling attention. Then there's Crazy House. Let's just say, the name fits. high energy, crowded, and not exactly subtle. If you want something a bit different, Shark Club brings more of a themed, show-style atmosphere. And right on the strip, Cockatoo Bar is one of the more recognizable spots with its own unique crowd and vibe. What makes Soi Cowboy stand out is the feeling. It's intense but also very accessible. You can walk the entire street in a few minutes, or stay there for hours just moving from one place to another. And the competition here is obvious. Every place is trying to pull you in. Lights, music, energy. It's all happening right in front of you. Soi Cowboy is not subtle. It doesn't try to be. It's bright, loud, and very direct. And for a lot of people, this is their first real taste of Bangkok nightlife. So what do you think? Soi Cowboy or Nana Plaza? Which one would you pick? Now this is where things start to connect. Lower Sukhumvit, the stretch between Nana Plaza and Soi Cowboy, is not just one place. It's multiple scenes, overlapping. And that's what makes it interesting. You've got Soi 11. This is one of the most versatile nightlife streets in Bangkok. Clubs, rooftops, bars, everything mixed together. You can start the night somewhere relaxed and end up in a packed club without ever leaving the same street. Places like Levels or Sugar bring the energy, while spots like Above 11 shift things into a completely different vibe. And here's the thing, a lot of tourists come to Bangkok and never even hear about Soi 11, which means they miss a big part of the city's nightlife. Then you've got Soi 7 and 7/1. Smaller, more low-key, a bit more old school, completely different pace compared to Soi 11. Less about big venues, more about simple setups where people just sit, talk, and let the night unfold slowly. And somewhere in between all of this, you've got places like Therme. On the surface, it looks like just another late-night coffee spot. But if you know, you know. It's one of the most talked about meeting points in this part of the city. And that's really what defines Lower Sukhumvit. It's not one experience, it's layers. Different streets, different crowds, different expectations, all within walking distance. So if you think Bangkok nightlife is just Nana or Soi Cowboy, this area proves otherwise. And honestly, what you're seeing here, that's just the surface. Lower Sukhumvit is one of those areas that deserves its own full breakdown. So stay tuned. I'll be covering it in detail separately. Then, just off the chaos of Sukhumvit, you step into something completely different. Around Sukhumvit 24, 33, and the small connecting alleys, you'll find what people often call Japan Town. And the shift is immediate. This area is heavily influenced by Japanese expats, which means the whole atmosphere feels different from the rest of Bangkok nightlife. More discreet, more structured, more subtle. Instead of loud streets and flashing lights, you get narrow alleys, quiet entrances, soft lighting, places that don't try to pull you in. You have to notice them. You'll see Japanese-style izakayas, small bars, and cocktail spots. The kind of places where people sit for hours, talk, drink slowly, and keep things low-key. And alongside that, you'll also find venues offering Japanese-style services and experiences. Different approach, different expectations, and a completely different pace compared to the main nightlife zones. This is not a place that reveals itself quickly. From the outside, it can look almost too quiet. But that's the point, because here, what you see is usually just the surface. And honestly, this is one of those topics that needs its own full breakdown. I've already covered this side of Bangkok in a separate, more detailed guide, so I'm not going too deep into it here. But just know this, Bangkok nightlife is not just neon streets and loud energy. There's a quieter, more hidden layer to it, and this is part of it. And then, you've got Khao San Road, completely different world. Located in the old part of Bangkok, this is one of the most famous backpacker streets in Southeast Asia. And the moment you step into it, you feel the difference. It's loud, it's crowded, it's chaotic in a completely different way. Khao San isn't about structure. It's not about systems or understanding how things work. It's about energy. Music coming from every direction. Bars packed next to each other. People dancing in the street, moving from one place to another without any real plan. This is where nights start, and sometimes don't really end. Historically, Khaosan was all about budget travelers, cheap hostels, simple food, people passing through Southeast Asia. But over time, it evolved into something much bigger. Today, you'll find a mix of everything: international travelers, locals, groups of friends, solo backpackers, all in one place. And something a lot of people don't expect is how popular this area is with younger Thai crowds, especially on weekends, which changes the whole dynamic. It's not just tourists anymore. It feels more local, more social, more spontaneous. You've got big party spots like the Club or Rocco, live music venues like Brick Bar, and dozens of smaller bars in between. But honestly, Khao San is less about specific places and more about the street itself. You walk, you stop, you grab a drink, you move again. Everything is happening at once. And compared to places like Nana or Soi Cowboy, this is a completely different type of nightlife. Less structured, more chaotic, more about the moment. So if you're coming to Bangkok expecting one type of nightlife, Khao San will probably surprise you. So now you've seen it. Bangkok nightlife is not just one thing. From the history of Patpong to the structure of Nana Plaza, the energy of Soi Cowboy, the layers of Sukhumvit, and the chaos of Khaosan Road. Each area works differently. Different crowds, different pace, different experience. And the biggest mistake? Thinking they're all the same. If you're going out here, keep it simple. Stay aware. Take your time. And don't rush into things you don't fully understand. Bangkok is fun, but it rewards people who know how to move. If you've been here before, drop your experience in the comments. What surprised you the most? And if you want to plan your night properly, I've pinned all the key spots on a Google map. Link is in the description. I'll also be dropping full deep dives for each area. So if you want to understand how these places actually work, subscribe and don't miss those. And if you want the real layer behind all of this, updates, changes, things that don't stay public for long, that's where Telegram comes in. Inside the Lazy Nomad VIP, I share what's actually happening on the ground, in real time. No filters, no recycled info. If you're curious, you know where to find it. Thanks for tagging along with Lazy Nomad. Until our paths cross again in the neon-lit streets of Southeast Asia, keep exploring, but always keep it lazy. Good night, and see you on the next adventure.